You probably know the image. Edinburgh, a cafe, J.K. Rowling, a single mother sitting with her baby in a pram beside her. She opens a notebook, she writes Harry Potter. That image is real, and it has led a lot of writers to completely misread how she worked. Because of that image, the cafe, the inspiration, the story that seemed to arrive from nowhere became the story people told about her. And if you are a writer, that story has probably cost you more than you realize. Hi, I'm Andrea, the founder of Bibisco, the novel writing software downloaded by more than 200,000 writers around the world. And what I want to show you in this video is something specific. Not advice, not a method to copy, just a look at what Rowling actually did before chapter 1, between books, behind the scenes, so that next time you sit down to write and something stops you, you'll have a clearer sense of what's actually happening. The idea for Harry Potter came to Rowling in 1990 on a delayed train from Manchester to London. She has described the moment herself. Harry seemed to arrive almost fully formed, but she didn't start writing chapter 1 that night. What she did over the next 5 years was something a lot quieter and a lot more deliberate. She built notebooks, 6 of them at least, character histories, word rules, future plot points, clues. She planned to plant 3 books before the reveal, 7 books plotted in broad strokes before she finished the first. And then for the 5th book, Order of the Phoenix, 1 page of actual process became public. A hand-drawn spreadsheet, 1 surviving page. It covers chapter 13 through 24. Across those 12 chapters, she tracks 6 separate storylines, by hand, row by row. 6 threads, 12 chapters, 1 sheet of paper. At first glance, that looks like the work of someone who needed control. A planner, methodical, a little rigid maybe. But the more you look at it, the less it seems like that. She wasn't trying to control the story. She was trying not to lose it. There's a difference, and it's kind of important, because losing the story doesn't only happen when you are writing a 7-book fantasy saga. It happens to ordinary writers inside ordinary novels all the time. And when it happens, it rarely feels like a structural problem. It feels like you have suddenly become stuck. Here's what I think actually happens to a lot of writers. You start a novel, you have a character, you have something like a premise, you write the first chapter, maybe the second, and then at some point you stop. Not because you have run out of ideas, you might have plenty of those. You stop because you can't quite see where you are anymore. You have written 15 pages or 40, and the story has opened up in directions you didn't plan for. And now you need to make a decision. But to make it, you need to remember something that was established 3 chapters ago, and you are not entirely sure you did establish it. And that pause. That's not a creativity problem, it's a structural problem. Or maybe, more precisely, it's an orientation problem. A story like Harry Potter, 7 books, hundreds of characters, clues planted in book 2 that only land in book 6, that's not something you can hold in your head. It's not even something you can hold in one notebook. The thing that's interesting about Rowling's spreadsheet is that she made it for herself, not to plan ahead in the way people imagine. First this happens, then this, then this. She made it to keep track of what was already in motion. 6 storylines running at the same time, each one moving at its own pace. And she needed to see at a glance whether they were intersecting the right way. That's not a planning instinct, it's something closer to spatial thinking. She needed a map because her story had become large enough that she could get genuinely lost inside it. Most writers don't have that map. They may be just as serious, just as committed, just as capable of planning as J.K. Rowling. The problem is that almost nobody tells them a novel needs a map until they are already lost inside it. If this is making something click for you, something about your own process, or a novel you have been stuck in, it's probably worth subscribing. This channel is about exactly these kinds of things, and I like helps other writers find it. This is why I built Bibisco, not to replace the notebooks, not to automate the creative work, but to give writers the kind of structure Rowling built by hand, something that holds the architecture of your novel so you can see it clearly while you are inside it. Let me show you what that actually looks like. Some writers start with a premise, others start with a character or a scene. Bibisco doesn't ask you to start in any particular way. What Bibisco gives you is a place to put the structure as it emerges, parts, chapters, scenes, so that whatever you are building as somewhere to live while you figure out what it is. This is roughly what Rowling did in those early notebooks. She needed to see the shape of the story before she could live inside it. Once you start writing, every chapter and every scene is in one place. No switching between files, no reconstructing what you already built. And if a scene needs to move, if you realize 3 chapters in that something works better earlier, you drag it, it goes. No cutting and pasting across documents, no losing your place. Then there is the timeline, which is probably the closest thing in Bibisco to Rowling's hand-drawn spreadsheet. Every event in your story placed in chronological order, connected to the scenes where it appears, to the characters involved, to the locations, to the objects that matter. If your story moves across years, or if you have multiple characters whose timelines need to stay consistent, this is where you see it. All of it at once. Temporal inconsistencies are the kind of mistake you don't notice until a reader points them out. The timeline is how you catch them yourself, while there is still time to fix them. Bibisco also has great character development tools. In Bibisco, your characters aren't described, they are interviewed. Bibisco walks you through a set of questions about their qualities, their contradictions, their fears. This helps you understand who they actually are before they have to make decisions under pressure. Because a character you don't fully know will eventually do something that feels wrong. The character interview is how you get ahead of that. And then there is the mind map. The mind map lets you see the relationships inside your story between characters, locations, objects, events, who connects to whom, where the tensions are, what's influencing what. Sometimes you build it and discover a contradiction you didn't know, or maybe you are stuck and you open them up and some connection you hadn't consciously noticed becomes visible. Rowling spent years building this architecture by hand, across notebooks, spreadsheets, loose pages that somehow held together long enough to become 7 books. In Bibisco, that structure is already in place. You have to bring the story. So if you want to try Bibisco, the link is in the description. There's a free version, no credit card, no time limit. And if this video made you see something differently about your own process, subscribe to the channel. Next time we are looking at another author whose method is almost nothing like what you have been told.